Good evening. Beti Olive Namisango Turwomwe Kamya has seen it all, or has she? She is now the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development after previously serving as Minister for Kampala Metropolitan Affairs. Kamya, a daughter of a soldier, is a qualified marketeer and has mostly used her marketing skills in politics. She was previously in the FDC party as a senior official and later formed the Uganda Federal Alliance, on whose ticket she stood as a presidential candidate in 2016. Kamya is now firmly in the NRM and is seeking to recapture her seat as Lubaga North MP. She has moved full circle from an ardent defender of the movement in the early years after President Yoweri Museveni came to power in 1986, moving to the opposition reform agenda, then FDC, Federal Alliance, and back to NRM. Honorable Beti Olive Kamya Namisango is my guest this evening. Thank you so much for having honored our invitation on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas.
Oh, yes. Merry Christmas, Patrick. And
yes.
Thank you for inviting me.
The spotlight of Uganda is on you on a day like this when people are unwinding. And I can imagine they just be listening to each and every word and every step and every body language of this conversation we're going to have tonight. Like I began, you have moved full circle from supporting NRM in 1986 to FDC to Federal Alliance and then to FDC. I mean, again to NRM. By the way, UF leaders, I'm told, expelled you from the party sometime back. Were you expelled from the party you founded, or you are still a member of the same party, even though now you seem to be, you are serving in the cabinet of NRM? I just don't understand you.
Well, first of all, Patrick, thank you very much for inviting me to the show. And good evening, viewers. And many people may not remember that I could have been the very first person on this show. Those were the days when I left FDC, because I made news then for close to 2 years. So I'm probably one of the first 2 or 3 people that were hosted on this show. And I want to congratulate you that you have maintained the character, the everything good about shows is this show.
Thank you.
Having said that, yes, that's who I am. I move on.
Woman on the move.
I move on.
So even the guys at NRM should watch out. You could be on the move.
No, I think at my age, no, not even at my age, but I think I've moved round circle, as you said, and I think I'm here to confirm the old English adage, which says, East, West, home is best. True, I have worked with most of the people that are, well, not that are in business, the politics business. I've worked with them all, of course, except Noop, because they're very
I have not seen a Ugandan politician who speaks with confidence, who inspires other Ugandans, like you in the Federal Alliance, how you took on the NRM juggernaut, how you criticized President Yoweri Museveni, how you told us we actually need to go into the federal kind of alliance, to be the same person who just, told us to do otherwise, and then you just go and join the very system that you're so opposed to.
No.
You just make me hate politics.
I think you got it wrong. Not me wrong, but you got it wrong. My issue was never about President Museveni or anybody else. And I said so, Patrick. I said the problem is the system. And the NRM is exactly the same as the FDC and all those other systems who prescribe and who actually compete to sit in the same seat.
You took a lot of time criticizing the system, and many Ugandans believed you. I remember you had your spokesperson from Karamoja, a very vibrant man who could speak for you.
Charles Adiaka
and company, they picked your information. You said the system is wrong. But now you're serving the same system
Charles,
and serving the same master.
I am not, NRM is not a system. It is a political party in a system, the same system as FDC, as NUP, as DP. NRM is a political party in a system which centralizes power. So I was talking about the same system that is in FDC, that is in NUP, that is in DP, that is in NRM, the same system
so you
that
centralizes
power.
You abhor those kind of systems, but you're serving the master of that very system.
No,
you criticize.
Patrick, no. I don't even abhor them. I said that the system is not good for Uganda. It is not the best, if you like.
What are you doing in this system that's not good for Uganda?
Patrick, we are in the same system, everybody. I was advocating for a change of system. And Patrick, remember, I put it to the vote. Did you vote for me? Did you? I put it to the vote, and I was defeated by the majority. And as a Democrat, I admit it's not yet time. Ugandans are not yet ready for federalism.
You said the NRM government under Yoweri Museveni was more like an imperial presidency. In fact,
Patrick,
imperial, that's what you said.
No, I'm not going to accept that. Patrick, please, unless you came with a fixed mind and fixed words, listen to me. I said I did not criticize the NRM party. I was criticizing a system that over-centralizes power. And none of those other parties, except Federal Alliance, agreed with me. Actually, they didn't agree with me. They all...
Yes, you're saying power was in the hands of one man, one individual.
And
more or less like an imperial presidency. If I remember your words,
Patrick, and all those other leaders are aspiring to replace Museveni in the same system. Get this clearly. They are all aspiring to replace President Museveni and continue with
wrong
the system.
in your view.
Not wrong. I mean, the word wrong, Patrick, it's not always wrong or right. There is a more suited, there is better. Mind you, there are systems which are absolute monarchs. And they're not necessarily wrong. It's because the people of those systems want them so. But I was saying, for Uganda, we need a less centralized system. It's not about wrong or right. It's what's good for Uganda or not so good for Uganda.
Is there anything you have done? You're a cabinet minister of high stature. Is there anything you have done so that you can, maybe that message, that idea that you have can start to germinate, or you saw it in the NRM or in Uganda,
actually,
so that we can have less support from the presidency, like you always wanted?
I am so glad, Patrick, that we are one of my disciples. 10 years on, you still remember it. I think it's a great job that was done. And Patrick, you're not the only one. Other people remember that as well. But I'm telling you, I put it to the vote and I lost. As a Democrat, I admit that I lost. But I still think it's the better system.
So when you can't beat them, you join them?
Even if I had been in FDC or NUP, it would still be the system. But I chose to be in NRM because of better policies. Don't confuse policies. Don't confuse government. Don't confuse the party with the system. If you want us to talk about systems, we talk about monarchism, we talk about imperialism, we talk about federalism, we talk about extremism. Those are systems. But you want to confuse a party and a government with a system. What are we talking about, Patrick?
I was reading a book written by Daniel Kalinaki, who's actually my immediate supervisor, a book about Dr. Kizza Besigye's Unfinished Revolution. He talks about you as one of those fundamental members of the FDC, of the reform agenda, that really believed in a reform agenda and the FDC, and of course taking on the NRM. When you come back and join them, I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Patrick, why don't you ask why I left them? I mean, joining them is one thing. Yes. Why don't you ask why I left them? That's a good question.
You know, as a reporter, following you then, as a young reporter, following you then, and talking with conviction and inspiring, talking with the confidence.
I still do.
With the numbers and quoting all these things, you know, on the other side of the aisle. And when you came back and speaking with the same gusto, I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, you have some double personality?
No, it's not a double personality. I'll tell you something, Patrick. There are people today who used to hate Obote with a passion, but who are saying, hang on, maybe the man wasn't so bad. There are so many. There are even people today who used to despise Amin, but who are saying, hang on, maybe the man wasn't so bad. So there's always with the knowledge of hindsight, Patrick. And I'm telling you, with the knowledge of hindsight, given the choices we have today, President Museveni is better. I'm not saying Museveni is an angel. I didn't say that. I'm just saying, given the choices we have today, Museveni is the best of them. So
you were one of the early supporters of NRM when he just came in 1986.
Yes.
In fact, the late Spencer Turwomwe was my friend. As a young man, I met him, an incredible person, and you and him were an ardent supporter. But did you envision that 40 years later, President Yoweri Museveni would still be seeking to be president?
Maybe not. You know, 40 years is a long time.
Yeah, but I'm saying in 1986 he comes, and there you are, you and your dear husband, supporting Yoweri Museveni. Did you have it in your mind that the same man you're supporting with all this energy would be trying to lead your country for 40 years?
Patrick, you are speaking about the number of years?
Yes, I am.
Because, Patrick, the number of years is not an important thing.
It is. Why? You know why? For all those countries where you have had a leader for more than 35 years or 40, the moment they step away, the country crumbles. Examples are numerous on our continent.
And examples are numerous of people who lead for life because they have a monarchical system. Talk about Dubai. Examples are numerous of leaders who led for many decades. Talk about Singapore, and the countries did not crash.
Yeah, you know why
are you looking at the countries that
Singapore
crashed
from third world to first world?
Yes, exactly.
You can see how in 30 years Singapore has been changed. In fact, in the 60s, Singapore, South Korea, and those countries were coming to benchmark in Uganda. Now they are light years ahead of us.
But do you know what happened in Singapore?
If you have sorted the issues concerning the people of your country, at least you have a moral grounding to say you have stayed and you have done ABCD.
If you want to do
for a country like Singapore that was coming in the 60s to benchmark Uganda, and now it is late years ahead of Uganda, we have to question people who have run our affairs for 40 years, what went wrong?
If you want to do comparisons, then do proper comparisons. What happened in Singapore, or in Dubai, if you like, leaders were not challenged for 30 years. Lee Kuan Yew did not have to spend time looking over his shoulder by people who were working against him. Lee Kuan Yew had absolute leadership, uncontested, unchallenged for 30 years, and when he was stepping aside, he stepped aside for his son, who is the Prime Minister today, and nobody is complaining. The son of Lee Kuan Yew, the systems and the people maybe and the cultures are different.
For Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, there's something to show for it. For 30 years in power.
Yes.
It is not equivalent to Uganda. For the country that was coming to learn from Uganda 40, 50 years ago, for now to be late years ahead, it's a shame on the leaders of Uganda for the last 50 years.
But Singapore did not have a civil war. Singapore was not destabilized politically like Uganda was. Remember that it is only these 30 years of Museveni that we have had. In fact, only 20, let me say 15 years, because even the first 20 years...
Beti, it is actually in 30 years that Singapore was changed.
Even the first 20 years of President Museveni were not stable. We were fighting wars all around. We had ADF, we had Allied Who, we had Konyi, we had Lakwena, we had Foba, we had West Nile. We had, for 20 years, we were just fighting wars. We're not concentrating on development. If you like, we've just started concentrating on development in 15 years. In 20 years of Museveni, We were fighting wars within ourselves and with the aggression from neighbors, if you like. And before that, remember, there was no stability. We had 8 years of Amin. We had 8 years of bickering, of Obote. Don't compare Uganda with Singapore in terms of the environment that was created for a country to focus on development. Uganda was doing development but fighting wars at the same time. It's only in the last 15 years that Uganda has concentrated on development.
You know, you spent a lot of time denouncing the system that you think is flawed. And in so doing, people believed you. You denounced it for so long. But now you are dealing with it and people are disappointed.
You have refused to understand the difference between a system and a government. I don't know it is deliberate, Patrick, but I think the viewers are watching you. Let me tell you, viewers, there is a difference between a system and a government. I was challenging the appropriateness of a system in a growing independent country like Uganda, not the government, you know. And I even used to say, if you remember, I used to say, if you sit anybody in President Museveni's chair, including Beti Kamya, and you don't change the system.
That you said?
Yes, and you don't change the system, we shall have pretty much the same
Period presidency.
Government, yes, because there's so much power at the center. That's what I used to say then. So it was not about the NRM government.
Okay.
It was about the system.
I just want to change gears and we look into the elections, general elections 2021. We are having an election amidst the pandemic. And of course, we're supposed to be having scientific kind of election. Just yesterday, members of the religious community of Uganda, headed by Archbishop Luanga, was advising or giving a proposition that, look, the election should be postponed because what we have now is not going to give us a free and fair election. These are respected men and women who are our spiritual leaders. When they come and say something is wrong, you in the cabinet and you, the leaders, should actually take heed.
True. I must say, with all due respect and love that I have for our religious leaders, I beg to disagree with them. Or I will say that I was a bit disappointed by that statement, because what I would have expected them to say is to urge people, because we've got 2 weeks. We've got 2 weeks to go to the end of the elections. After what we've been through and what we have spent, I would have expected my leaders to urge people to apply the SOPs, especially to urge the topmost political leaders to guide their supporters to follow the SOPs.
But Honorable Kamya, it's not about the days remaining. It's about having a system, having results on election that is legitimate. But now this is going, it's legitimate, it's going to be challenged because they're saying...
So what do you have, what's going to happen in the next 3 years? I mean, why 3 years?
No. Well,
why 3 years?
Whereas the mechanics may be different, what I want you to pay attention to...
Is COVID going to go away?
What I want you to pay attention to and understand that when you have people like Archbishop Cyprian Kizito Luanga telling you that, look, what you're doing may not give you the good results. All the men of the cloth, and they're telling you it's better if you postpone because what we have now is flawed. As our spiritual leaders, I think...
I beg to disagree with them.
I think that is, if you continue, that's a sustained kind of exercise you're going to continue to carry forward.
With due respect...
And its legitimacy is going to be questioned.
With due respect, I beg to disagree with our spiritual leaders and to disagree with you also that 2 weeks remaining of 5 years is not important and that we should reverse it 3 years behind without the the guarantees that you're talking about. COVID has not given us notice of when it will go away. It is not clear whether the SOPs are no longer important, and we should wait when we don't need to use the SOPs. I think what should have been more practical is to call upon all believers of all those religions to please help us go through the next 2 weeks by minimizing the incidence of COVID. And they should pray and call upon all leaders to please guide. That's what I should expect of them. Instead of saying, unmindful of what we have put in. Because as a country, we have put in something.
But you see,
regardless of what has gone into
all
this
the politicians
thing,
now who are seeking the mandate, whether at parliamentary or mayoral, LC5 or the presidency, have fallen short when it comes to strict observance of the SOPs, and there are many examples to go by.
And I'm not even saying they should point out who has and who hasn't. It should be a blanket call for all politicians and all Ugandans of goodwill for this country, mature Ugandans, to observe the SOPs. That's what it should be, a call to everybody.
Honorable Kamya, why have we seen a selective application of the law when it comes to enforcement of these SOPs by the men and women in uniform?
No, that one I don't like. That one I don't like. There should not be selective application of the law. There we're together, and I think that I really don't know who gives the orders. They should be called to order, to call people, to tell people that we are all equal before the law. If the president of the country can bend over backwards to lead by example, and all of us, even like I myself, I set people, and I'm going to win this election by not defying the law.
In Lubaga North?
Of course. I'm going to win
against those two giants?
Of course.
Mr. Abubakar and...
Of course, I'm going to defeat them.
And Mr. Kasibanti?
In Lubaga, they're not giants.
They
are giants in the media.
You know Kasibanti has beaten you before. He can beat you again.
Well,
and now there's another giant in the play.
Okay.
I'm just saying... Audacity to hope that you can actually win
Of course I will. Oh, definitely. I'm going to win. I am going to win this election. I'm going to win this election. But I'm saying, going back to the issue we're talking about, we should be calling upon everybody to respect the SOPs, not to cheer people who are breaking laws, who are making life very dangerous for everybody. We're cheering them.
At the very beginning of this general election, when the road 2021 was given by the Electoral Commission and we started with the primaries, we saw total disregard of the SOPs by senior government officials, members of the NRM, including the Minister of Health herself, the Honorable Jenna Chang, including the woman MP for Koboko Municipality,
it doesn't
the
make
Honorable
it right.
Nanite. We saw NRM members of Parliament in their caucus, in their primaries in Bushenyi, total disregard. We saw the Honorable Mike Mukula, total disregard in a church. You, who are the leaders, the party in power, started with disregarding the SOPs.
That doesn't make them right.
You were sowing the seeds of anarchy.
They were wrong. They were wrong. If they disregarded the law, they were wrong, and they were called to order, and nobody did it twice. As is happening in the opposition. They do it today, they do it tomorrow, they do it again and again and again, and they should be called to order, and everybody should be called to order. The incidences we're talking of are one-off for each one. The Minister of Health, it happened once, and she was called to order. Honorable Anita was even summoned and scolded. Everybody you are talking about has done it once. They were called to order. They didn't do it again. But in the opposition, they do it again and again and again. That's the difference.
No, in fact, you disperse their crowds with violence. And violence seems to have character. Violence is almost at the center of this election. When you see what the military is doing, what the police is doing, when they are following candidates, I've seen the Honorable Patrick Amuriat almost everywhere he's gone.
Yes, it's regrettable.
Tear gas. The Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, everywhere he's gone. There is heavy deployment. People are intimidated. He's been trying to, should I say, go by defiance, and also because of the numbers of the people who are happy with him. If that was not the case, the police and the military has been, you know, all over, not giving them space.
I'm not
really.
going to be the
And in some cases, they push them away from a route they're supposed to take, deep in the villages, which maybe is also going to help because the people in the village will get to know that he is a young man aspiring to lead.
Oh, you're saying it's going to help? Maybe it's going to spread COVID. I was going to say, which is even worse because it's going to take COVID to the... I thought you were going to say, which is worse because then it's likely to spread COVID to the villages. But you prefer the other.
But now, Honorable Beti Kamya, our country seems to be very divided, kind of polarized so much today. There are young people who feel excluded. And you know, today I was just driving, coming here, and I could see the love of young people they have for Honorable Robert Chagulanyi. They have those posters, you know, in downtown, and they keep cleaning them and putting sodas around. You know, keeping it as if there's a human being there who they are taking care of, and then they are sending a message like there is them and them.
No, you know,
a clear dichotomy of Uganda: those who have and those who have not, those who are excluded and those who are into the things. This is what we see.
Patrick, most of us have young people at home. My young people don't go to the streets there. And the other young people of NRM. And NRM has got a lot of young people too. And I even tell you from the structures of the youth, NRM has got almost 80% young people who have decided to live by the law. So the examples you are giving us are people who have chosen to break the law. Why don't you tell us about the people who have decided to keep the law? Because you are biased, Patrick. There are young people who have decided to live by the law. And every day, you go to the market, you go on the street, you will find young people busy doing cobra work, fetching water, washing cars on the washing bays, riding border borders. All those are young people who are working, who are employed, who are not on the street.
You know what? I am, first of all, impressed and humbled that we extended an invitation and you came. Majority of your colleagues in NRM now, I'm saying this because I have experienced it. You have a discussion like this, they don't want to appear, you know, and I've actually been seeing other people who are not even elected officials of the NRM speaking more. I can give an example of Bebeku, I can give an example of Balam, I can give an example of Morrison Wakakamba. Elected NRM members are reluctant to come. I'm wondering why the party in power is beginning to have a psychology of the minority.
That's your opinion. I don't know. You invited me and I came. I didn't think twice.
Oh,
actually,
never.
You didn't even give me a lot of notice. You invited me this afternoon.
That's what I'm beginning to say. I'm humbled and happy that you came because...
and there are many like me that will come. I'm telling you.
All right. Honorable Beti Kamya, we're going to take a break, and On the Spot we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Honorable Beti Olive Namisango Kamya, who's the Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, who's also a candidate in the Lubaga North parliamentary race. Well, there was a proposition that government was going to secure radios and TVs, and I think the idea was even the radios, people could communally maybe watch TVs and stuff like that. I wonder how far that has gone, because if this is going to be a scientific election where people are using different platforms like TVs and radios, then you have to think about the people who don't have them, because they have a right to vote, they have a right to information, and the information is not getting to them. Yet there was a proposition of a government to give that.
I think that was the idea. But then I think statistics show that there are about 90%, or I don't know, fairly impressive statistics of people who get their information through radio. And there's a sizable number of people, I think 2 million, who get their information through social media, who are connected to social media. and a sizable percentage. So in short, there is, I think, over 80% of Ugandans who have access to information through the present, the current situation. Of course, it can and should be improved, but this is a growing economy, a growing democracy, where nothing should be expected to be 100%, to score 100%. But I think the scores are pretty high. That's not to say that someone should not account for the radios. Yes, someone should account for the radios. I don't know whether the money was released. I know it was passed in Parliament, but whether it was released is another thing. Passing the budget is one thing, but actually finding the money in the budget is quite another. So I know that it was passed. It was proposed in Cabinet and passed in Parliament.
We have seen,
but I'm not so sure whether the money was released.
Opposition candidates on the presidential ticket who have been denied the opportunity to speak on different radio stations. And actually, it started even longer before the campaign, where you find the Honorable Dr. Besije or other members, you know, denied, even when they have paid money. So, you know, things like these really do not show us that the ground is leveled for us to have a free and fair election.
I don't think it's leveled, but, and I don't want to make excuses, but I'm reminding people that we are a growing democracy. And we, like any living thing, you grow, sometimes you stumble, sometimes you get sick, you get issues, but then you get up and grow again. We talk as if Uganda became a democracy on the 9th of October, 1962. A full democracy in the full sense of the word democracy. That doesn't happen. There's growth like any living thing. And like I said, in every growth, you stumble, you fall. But the important thing is that you pick yourself up. You pick yourself up and continue moving. So we have a democracy that is not 100% democracy. The way we understand democracy, neither is it in America. You know, America, they have the popular vote, people power for everybody. Then a few people, the electoral college, go somewhere and actually decide for the country. That's a democracy that is doctored to suit the vision of the of America, the long-term vision. You have other countries like say Israel. You know, Israel was wiped off the face of the world, of the earth, for over 1,000 years. And when they came back in 1946 or 45, their riding objective now is the survival of the state of Israel. And that's how they design their policies, their democracy, their everything. It is around the objective of the survival of the state of Israel.
You're going to have a fourth election in 2 years. You're aware about that?
The Americans have their objective. What is our objective? That we should design our democracy the way that it is designed. We have
the supreme law of the land, which is our constitution.
Yes.
Tells us how this country is going to be governed. They tell us how the timetable is going to be. If only we can just follow the supreme law of the land. To the later, we would have no trouble. Only that sometimes the constitution has been mutilated in the last 20 years beyond recognition.
But you remember what happened in 1967? It was mutilated beyond recognition. That's just what I'm telling you. You move, you stumble, you fall, you get up again. Because we are a growing country. And the countries that you're comparing Uganda with have been in existence for not even centuries, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years.
This stumbling is so continuous, and it is even scaring, especially when you see government going in for the human rights defenders, the case of Nicholas Opio. And I'm not saying somebody shouldn't be arrested, yes. In case he has committed a crime, you know, he is a gentleman who is a lawyer, who is one of the most law-abiding Ugandans that I know. As a reporter, I've dealt with him. One of the most law-abiding. Just a matter of summoning the guy. he will appear to where you want him to appear, you make a statement, and then you take him to court. If he loses the case, he serves his term. But why would he be arrested in a manner that is so violent? You know, handcuff him as if he's actually, you know, killed somebody. In fact, when he arrived wherever he was, maybe people who saw him could have thought this man must have murdered someone on the street. Call him and let him appear.
I agree.
So why does the government allow things like this to happen to a law-abiding citizen like Nicholas Opiyo?
Well, I think that should be improved. That's one of the things I'm saying. At some point, we shall have a conversation as a country and get ourselves to another level. Because now we have...
I like the way, Honorable Kamya, when you keep on saying this one should be improved, this should be worked upon, and I'm wondering what is working?
No, there's a lot of things are working. You cannot believe the changes that have taken place. I don't know how old you were, but if you look back 35 years ago and look at that Uganda and this Uganda today, you will appreciate that so much has happened. And that's why
35 years ago, there was a functioning Uganda Airlines. You're trying to revive it now?
Was it functioning?
It was.
So
it was so,
you know,
the time. 35 years ago, you had the Uganda Railways that was working. We don't have. 35 years ago, you have cooperatives. In our area, you had Nyakatonzi, you had Bugisu, you have all these things. You had Mengo working. 35 years ago, or 40 or 50 years ago, somebody built, you know, state-of-the-art hospitals that still stand today. The Anakas of today, the Kagadis of today, these are still there. The fundamentals and the spine
35 years ago
was built. There is something to show for it.
35 years ago, we had one radio station and one TV station which used to close at midnight. Now we have 300 media stations which work 24 hours a day. And do you know what keeps the media in business? It's business. It's advertising. Because there's all this competition, because there's all this advertising, because there's all these goods and services to sell to the public, that is why we have 300 times the number of media to advertise this. That is a very good indicator of how the economy has grown. Because 35 years ago,
Honorable Beti Kamya,
Patrick,
there is where we are and there is where we ought to be.
35 years ago, we had one radio station, one TV station, because there were no goods to advertise. So there was nothing to keep radios in business. This is a very good indicator of what has happened 35 years on in this country. 35 years ago, we had 80 industries which were working at 5%. I know what I'm talking about because I used to work in Ulati, I worked in Nightil, I worked in Uganda breweries, and most of the time we were seated waiting for production to come once a month. That is what I'm talking about. Now we're talking about 4,000 factories which employ pretty over 500 people. 35 years ago, we had one bus company called UTC in Kampala. Now we have, you can get transport anytime you want. It is our unique system, the borders and the matatus, but they're employing people where there used to be so many. I could go on and on. In Kampala, 35 years ago, there were 79 government schools in Kampala. As we speak today, there are over 3,000 schools in Kampala, and the 79 still government, the others are private sector. All this is because of government's policy of a private sector-led economy. You need to
look into the numbers of those schools and the children who enroll in primary one for UPE and find out whether the same number actually is able to sit for PLOE. A number of Ugandan children disappear. They enroll, yes, in big numbers, but when you reach P7, you don't see them. Where are the Ugandan children? And also, statistics have shown us we are getting an education that is not useful to us. And in fact, we don't only have an unemployment problem, some of our graduates are actually not employable.
Yes.
So the quality of the education you're giving us
Yes.
is being challenged.
Yes, but
So
when
why
we go,
are you
but
giving
when
us-
we go outside Uganda, people say, "Oh my God, these people are so well educated," because the other people, by the way, abroad, the education for the masses, the education for the masses only takes them up to when they're 17. As 18, they're adults, they're expected to go out and do other things. In Europe, and especially in Europe, the mass education provided by government is compulsory up to the age of 16. When you finish senior 4.
But as
But
government,
when Ugandans go out to
as a
work,
member of the cabinet, don't you really see, as your cabinet, that there's a need for total overhaul of the education system like we have, because it is not addressing our needs?
it does. Not 100%, but you know what education basically does? Apart from the science and the practical education, like a doctor or the professionals, but the general education is supposed to give you, to sharpen you, to be able to be creative, to be able to use your talents, to be able to see opportunities.
Yeah, but is that what is happening?
But the education that we are looking, no, yes, we must move on. I mean, we will get there, but what is happening, and I agree, we need an overhaul. But I'm telling you, Patrick, the countries you are comparing us today with Uganda today are 5,000 years old. They're 3,000 years old. Uganda is 58 years old. And you want Uganda to be like the UK, which is 3,000 years old, like China, which is 5,000 years old. We are a young country, growing. But believe it or not, we are growing in the right direction.
Is it not an embarrassment that up to today you can actually see children studying in shanty dwellings that are meant to be classes, in some cases even under trees? Isn't that a stain on a government?
Yeah, it is. It is. I just said to you that nothing is 100%, but there are other things that you should applaud. Are you here to talk about only the bad things? Why don't you talk about the good things? Some of the good things.
Because I want you to change the bad things so everything can
we
be
are
good.
moving.
That's
But
what you should
also
be doing
acknowledge
as a
the
government.
good things,
Remember
which I am
cabinet.
telling you. Acknowledge the good things as well. And those good things are competing for resources, including time and human resource, as the bad, they are competing for the resources as well. So while some good things are happening, some bad things are happening also elsewhere. Listen, I visited a state called Louisiana in the USA. I was shocked that there is a state in the backyard of the USA. The taxi, the special hire, which I hired, I think the door was held by a rope, I couldn't even find a bus to take me to where I was going. Louisiana, those southern states are so backward.
I've been to Louisiana.
You've been to Louisiana.
I've taken it.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Jackson, Mississippi to Louisiana.
So you know what I'm talking about, And this is but the US is still working to get them out of there. They're still working to get Louisiana to the same level as California or as Massachusetts.
Well, things you cannot compare. Things are way ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I mean, things
I rest
there
my
are
case.
I
rest my case.
No, things that are way ahead. We are still a banana republic. We are still more or less a hippie, highly indebted, poor country. Even though we are independent, we still have to get people in other countries sustain our economy, put in money. When it comes to the health sector, Honorable Beti Kamya, 90%, especially the funding into the HIV and AIDS problem, the money is coming from the United States in that area. In other words, you have given the job of keeping our people alive to others. When it comes to helping the elderly, the money, the biggest percentage of our senior citizen that now you are giving a stipend of 25,000 shillings, about 60–70% of the money is coming in from Europe.
I just asked you, is there anything good that you are seeing?
You're
or are you so
those state
negative
secret
that
says.
you really can't see anything good?
Are
you so negative?
No, I am telling you.
It's an attitude, so negative.
SEG, which is a government program that is helping the elderly.
But it has never happened
biggest
before.
Chunk
It has never
of the
happened
money.
before.
Or
Have you thought
25,000 shillings
Have
for the
you
elderly.
thought that has never happened before in Uganda? No one has ever done it. No government has ever done it.
Well, first
there
of all,
must be a beginning.
Even the
Do
beginning
you know how much
was
the
not a
door in the
Ugandan
USA?
project. The beginning was not even a Ugandan project. The money is not coming from Uganda. You are giving them 25,000 shillings. In fact,
It
you started
doesn't
at
matter.
60. You started at 60 years.
Yes.
And now you have taken
To spread it.
You have now taken to 80 years.
Yes, to
you
spread
have to
it.
start giving the elderly from the age of 80.
To spread
you,
it.
You know the age the Ugandans expectancy, life expectancy in Uganda.
But you must begin with the most vulnerable.
Life expectancy is at 60 or thereabout. But you want to give the elderly, start giving money at 80. Almost 20 years after they are long dead.
Yeah. It helps. Aren't they taking it? Is it there unclaimed? Is it gods which are taking it?
Honorable Kamya, does it make sense for a sovereign state to be looking to other nations to do vital programs for her people?
We have moved our operating costs from almost 80% foreign-based to 25%. I think you should give credit to that, because 40 years ago, more than 50% of our operating budget was from abroad. Now we only ask for 20% for things like that, and you still don't think it's a good start. It's a good thing. It is something, at least, that we can sponsor. In any case, even moving our mortality, what did you call it? Whatever rate.
Life expectancy.
Life expectancy from 43 to 65 in 30 years is a huge thing.
So why don't you start giving the elderly money at least at the age of 60? Because when they started as a pilot,
because
it was at 60, but now you're at 80.
Because it's not enough, and because people have.
So if you know people are living up the age of 65, why do you have to give them money at the age of 80?
Because even the 80s are still there. I asked you, Patrick, is the money still there? Is it unclaimed? Is the budget for those 80 years, does it get unclaimed and it goes back? People use it. However few they are, however small it is, at least it can buy toothpaste that will take the burden off the son or daughter for a month. If the old lady can buy herself toothpaste,
okay,
it takes the burden off the daughter.
Honorable Beti Kamya, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll open the lines so that you too can be a part of this discussion. You're going to see the numbers on the screen. Please pick your phone and call us, and be precise and concise, be brief, so that we can take as many calls as possible. But in case you disagree with the Honorable Beti Kamya, please disagree with respect. I also will be intending to ask her on matters concerning Uganda's land question. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Honorable Beti Kamya, and Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, who's also a candidate in the Lubaga North parliamentary race. I just want to look into your docket, because there was even recently a commission of inquiry. I think the Bamugemerede Commission. But one thing that stood out for me, and still that was so intriguing, is that people who seem to have known inside information went ahead and bought plots of land, you know, especially those who knew where the sea cable or the through Lake Victoria that's supposed to carry electricity is going to pass. They actually went and have land titles on Lake Victoria. You know, I'm picking out that, and one of the, I think, a surveyor who should have supposed to put the stone marks was tasked to go and show them where the stone marks are, and he started moving until he was almost getting until he was about to drown. That is where we have reached. When you took over the ministry, Uganda's land question is such a very difficult one. How do you find it? And where do you begin to solve? We have seen the destruction of the land in Luera. We have seen the destruction of the wetlands. And we have waged a suicidal war on nature.
True. It's regrettable, I must say, that there's a culture in Uganda of lawlessness, of defiance. People just have contempt for the law. I don't know what you're going to do about that, but I think it's almost a cultural thing, this contempt for. But
if Honorable Minister, if ministers of government and other senior government officials, for example, are not going to respect simple things like traffic regulations.
True.
You know, everybody now, they have their Land Cruisers, they have turned them into like ambulances with sirens and neon lights flashing all over. Even they are driving against the rules when the police is looking on, and these are senior members in government position. Then what do you expect of a border man to do? He's also going to be defiant. No wonder there's impunity on the streets of Kampala, because those in leadership have shown us impunity.
I agree.
So why?
I agree, and I think something should be done seriously about it. What happens is police come out 1 week and play tough and get vehicles and borders off the roads, and everybody is scared to death, and then they take a lot of money out of people, and it works for 1 week, and then it goes back.
What will it take for all of us to be law-abiding? So there can be order, so that people can respect those in authority and the rules and the regulations, because where we are now, I don't see it. These days, if you're driving, you have to be very careful. Somebody is going to come from a wrong side. You have to be very careful. Otherwise, you may find yourself in trouble, thinking you have taken the right way, yet somebody is going to come to your way. And maybe it can also be a government vehicle of a minister or a state minister or somebody in higher position who will also be defiant.
I agree. I used to fight with...
So how did we reach here?
No, true. I used to fight with my drivers, telling them I don't break the law. Please stop at traffic lights, because they said, since your security is at stake, they can't stopping at the traffic light puts you in a risky situation. And I said, but we must obey, especially when I was Minister for Kampala. Everybody knew my car. And I said, but how can the Minister for Kampala be the one to break the rules? That's regrettable. I totally agree with you.
Let me open the lines, Honorable Beti, so that maybe Ugandans can have a question or one or two to ask. And this is the moment when you can be a part of this discussion. You can see the numbers on the screen. Please call us and tell us what you think. You tell us your name and where you're calling from, and make everything brief. And I'm taking the very first caller online. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Keno Charles.
Charles.
Mr.
Okay.
From Nakawa East.
All right, go ahead, sir.
My name is Keno Charles. From Nakawa.
Charles, I'm waiting to hear what you have to say. Don't listen to an echo. Just tell us what you have to say.
We've lost him.
No, is there? Yes, hello, I have another caller line. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, good evening. What's your name, sir? I have a caller line. Yes, hello.
Yes, Beti Kamya.
Yes. What's your name and where are you calling from, sir?
My name is Kadema.
Kadema.
Yeah, calling from Chireka.
Okay, you're on air.
Yeah. So I think I want to just appreciate Beti Kamya's eloquence. How I wish every government minister had a reasoned what I would call kind of some submission to every kind of situation. And I think Beti has demonstrated that, and she's very knowledgeable. And I think she's one of the very few people who deserve a spot on Museveni's cabinet. Beti, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Kadema.
thank you very much. I think you're a caller from Kireka. I'm going to take another caller. Hello. Hello.
Thank you very much.
Hello. I have a call online. Hello. Okay. It looks like, please, when you call, don't leave your volume up. When you leave it up, it will confuse you because it will give you an echo. I always advise you turn down the volume so that it doesn't give you an echo. Then you'll be able to have a healthy and normal conversation. Should you turn up the volume, when you're on phone with me here, it will confuse you. So the moment you start calling, you turn down the volume of your TV or just move a little bit away. So, hello, I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Stephen Kabuleta from Nakawa West.
Okay, you're on air and you're loud and clear.
I want to upload. I want to upload my minister, Beti Kamya,
Okay.
and congratulate her for being articulative.
Okay.
And she's saying what she knows and what she has been doing herself.
All right. Mr.
It's so great that she can challenge Patrick for the first time. I've seen somebody who can challenge Patrick. You know, it is not fair for you not to look at what NRM has done all this time. You only think about the dirty ones, and
What?
the dirty ones which don't even exist.
Mr. Kabuleta, whom am I not to be challenged?
Oh yeah, now you have accepted the challenge.
Yeah, a challenge is always welcome.
I'm really happy you have accepted the challenge. When we are criticizing, if we are critics, we must look at achievements also. And when we assess the two and see the balance, then we have built Uganda for tomorrow.
I believe criticism will breed quality.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Criticize, as you remember that there are some good things that have been done,
Okay.
and we accept that they have been done. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you very much, Kabuleta from Nakawa. I'm going to take a couple. Have you rigged this?
Sorry?
Let me take another caller online. I have a call online. Hello. Hello. Hello, we have a call online. Hello. Yes, good evening. I'm going to drop that line and pick another. And please, when it goes through, you turn down the volume of your TV so that it doesn't confuse you by bringing an echo to you or an echo to us here. That's when we shall be able to have a normal conversation. Let me try to pick another caller. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Bob.
Yes.
I'm calling from Makindi.
Makindi on air.
Yeah, I would like to really thank what the government has done.
Okay.
But at some point, let's say that in case you overpress the population, sometimes they have nowhere to turn. For example, the minister is the minister of Kampala.
For lands.
For land, yes.
Yes.
You find that somebody has lost a job in Kampala. He has been pushed back to the village. When they reach in the village, the big people in the government have gone to the village and have grabbed the land. So these people have nowhere to turn, and the only thing they are left with is their lives. So how will those people not be defiant? Tell me, if they have nothing to fight for.
If they are desperate.
Their lives.
Okay. Thank you.
So the government has really helped a lot, but it has to remove what Museveni calls kawukumi in the government itself, so that the people are not over-oppressed.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Going to pick maybe 2 or 3 more calls, and that will be it. And the good thing with Beti, most of you guys were applauding her. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello,
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I am George from Boya.
George and Nimbuya, you're on air.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for that.
Yes, go right ahead. Don't mind about the echo. Just tell us what you want to say. We are hearing you loud and clear.
Thank you very much for the show, Peter.
You are listening to yourself. Continue telling us what you want to say. Ignore the echo you're hearing. Okay. The second last caller online. Hello? Hello? I have a call online.
Hello?
Yes, good evening, sir. All right. The very last now. We'll have the very last call online. Hello? Hello? Okay. Looks like we're having an issue there, but quite a number of calls were applauding you. It's unfortunate we could not get the others through.
Yes.
And so maybe if you can respond, and then we have the concluding remarks.
Well, I also just want to thank the people that stayed on the show, listening to everything that we're saying, and especially those that have made some kind remarks about myself. I appreciate that very much. And Bob also says, yes, thank government for what they have done, but also criticize or advise. I think that is the way to go. I think that is the way that we should be going. As I said from the beginning, no one said the NM government is an angel. No one said it is President Museveni is an angel. No. Of course, there are things to improve because the president doesn't even work alone. He works with the people of Uganda, some of them politicians, other not even in politics, but they are Ugandans, some of them difficult, some of them not so difficult. That's how the world is. But I think that's a fair attitude, to appreciate what's done and to criticize where due. Otherwise, I think that many people would have come in, but it's unfortunate that they didn't. But on the whole, I think I scored over,
I don't know about that.
over 70%
Well,
for the kind comments.
Yeah.
For the kind comments.
I should say which is rare.
That was rare for me.
No, rare on this.
On the show?
Yes.
Okay.
Which
I
is
know,
rare.
Patrick. You are a hard taskmaster.
No. That's not the intention. The intention is to be able to put myself in the shoes of those Ugandans who don't have the opportunity to sit with you.
And
there
I
are
think
Ugandans
you
who could
really
do
enjoy
this,
the...
and there are Ugandans who could do this better than me, but because I only have this opportunity for now, I try to put myself in their shoes and ask on their behalf as much as I can. What's going to be your parting shot?
Depending on the time that I have.
Yes. Your concluding remarks.
My concluding remarks will be mainly to all Ugandans. We've had a very difficult year of COVID. It's taken its toll on families, on businesses, on people, on the whole country, and indeed in the whole world. COVID has taken its toll, not on just, and it was not anybody's fault that COVID happened, but we must pull ourselves together and learn to live with COVID, because we don't know when it will go. But we must find ways, we must learn to live with it, around it, because we don't know much about it. And the SOPs are some of the most important things that will help us to live with COVID. So we need to adjust our attitude towards fighting COVID through SOPs than fighting government or defying government, because at the end of the day, we pay a very high price. So I want to wish especially all Ugandans a Merry Christmas tomorrow, and we should also remember the reason that Jesus was born, and a Happy New Year too. In particular, especially, I want to address myself to the people of Lubaga North constituency. I want to thank you very, very much for your support, for the goodwill which I feel all around me. And I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And to remind you, on the 14th of January 2014, before you do anything else after taking a shower or washing your face, go to the polling station, cast your ballot, and go and do other businesses. And if you're in Lubaga North, for president, vote Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. For member of parliament, vote Beti Kamya and Farida, oh dear, I've forgotten the name, Nambi, and Farida Nambi for member of parliament. That's on the 14th of January 2021 for securing your future.
Thank you very much, Honorable Beti Olive Kamya. I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to appreciate your insights. And I know Uganda as a country, this is our home, this is our country. We're just like one family. Uganda, we can do this without being violent. We can do this respecting each other because there's no need for us to be violent. We can cast our votes and tomorrow live together. It is just politics. It shouldn't divide us. There's no reason why it should. We're a great country with great people, and I know we can do this Uganda and move out and move as a better country. I want to thank you for your great company. Good night, and God bless Uganda.